Hey, how are you? I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Team Riser Fall to talk a little Sunday night football action, and it's going to be a good one. The Cincinnati Bengals head to Baltimore to take on the Ravens at MT&T Bank Stadium, something along those lines. Kickoff is right at 8:20. Before I get into my favorite plays and some ins and outs and projections, make sure you get to the website at Team Riser Fall. When you get there, use promo code Beastie. You'll get $10 off your first month of premium services, and if you watch the Sunday morning broadcast with Mitch and they're just constantly adding to the study hub, game flow tabs, red zone target tabs. I mean, there's just tabs on tabs and tabs, and you get like a little voucher on the monthly basis for Fantasy Cruncher. So there's a beautiful partnership over in that arena as well. Let's talk about the football game. As I said, Cincinnati goes to Baltimore. As it stands right now, Baltimore, the line, if I'm not mistaken, opened at like 3.5 and hasn't fallen that much. I believe it's Baltimore minus 3 right there. And when we look at the Ravens, they're 2-2, 0-2 at home, and offensively they're averaging around 233 passing yards a game, 145.8 rushing yards a game, which you love to see that when we get to J.K. Dobbins. And defensively, the Ravens, they allow around 278.9 passing yards a game and 84.5 rushing yards a game. And so what are we going to do with Mixon and Samaje Perine, even little Chris Evans? We'll get there when we get there. When we look at Cincinnati, they're 2-2, 1-1 on the road. Offensively, the Bengals, they started off slow, right? I believe they're 0-2 and they've won their last two. Now they're 2-2, 1-1 on the road, as I said. And offensively, the Bengals averaging around 338 passing yards a game, wowza, and 133 rushing yards a game, and around 20 points a game. So we love to see that for Burrow and Chase and T and all these guys. But defensively, the Bengals have allowed 194 passing yards, 75 rushing yards a game, and 23 total points. So let's talk about the players, shall we? First and foremost, I was trying to think, do I talk about Joe Burrow first, Jackson first? Let's talk about Joe Burrow, right? Cincinnati's at Baltimore. Baltimore's 31st overall against opposing quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, 15.5 on FanDuel, $10,600 on DK, and $35 on Yahoo. There's going to be nothing to shake a stick at with Joe Burrow. You're looking at 25 completions, 280 yards, couple touchdown passes, and a couple carries for another 20 yards. So we know what we're going to get from Joe Burrow and even Lamar Jackson, who is $17,000 on FanDuel, $12,200 on DraftKings, and a whopping $38 on Yahoo. I have Lamar Jackson. We know, again, 22 completions. That's a little ambitious, 240 passing yards, and a pair of touchdown passes, but we love Lamar for his rushing yardage, and you're looking at 9 or 10 carries for another 70 yards. So it's not about, to me, it's not about what Burrow or Lamar Jackson will do or won't do. They are going to perform, but given the nature of this game and the single game slate, it's just it's peanuts, right? If you use Burrow and Jackson in the same lineup, you got to fill it in with James Proche, Tylan Wallace, Isaiah Likely. There isn't a lot of room for not to use the word competitive edge here, but there's not a lot of room for stacking studs in this one. Sometimes in Monday Night Football, Sunday night, we can get away with fading both quarterbacks and we stack the running backs and the wide receivers. I honestly don't think we can get away with this, but we're going to have to pick our poison. And if you're like me, if you're watching this video, I'm going to make a Joe Burrow specific line. If you're like me, we're going to make a Lamar Jackson specific line. Or if you want to just get absolutely wild, Burrow Jackson. But again, you're going to have to live on the likes of Tyler Boyd stacked with Duvernay, and we go from there. Let's talk about the running backs. Just how can I put this? There's not much going on in running back land in this game, right? We know it's going to be about the wide receivers, and you're probably going, Chris, let's talk about the wide receivers, Chase and Duvernay, as you said. But let's do this and cover the running backs. I'll get through it quick. Joe Mixon at Baltimore. Right now, Baltimore 16th overall against opposing running backs. Mixon 12.5 on FanDuel, 8.8 on DK, and $23 on Yahoo. Again, we know what we're going to get from Mixon. What we can expect expect from him about 18 or 19 carries, about 75 yards, and 3 or 4 receptions for another 30 yards. So we're looking at over 100 all-purpose yards for Joe Mixon. Again, you can't put Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Mixon. That's a great way to start your single game slate, but then you got like $3,000 left between two players. Not possible, and we move on. Samaje Perine, Chris Evans, not much going on there. When we look at Perine, 3-4 carries, 10 yards, another reception or two, so about 20 to 25 all-purpose yards for Perine. As we move down to the Baltimore running backs, and this is where it gets interesting here. Let me turn the light down. It's like I'm looking at the surface of the sun here. When we look at the running backs for Baltimore, J.K. Dobbins, I believe they're each week coming off of that major injury. They're giving him a little bit more. And on tonight, Sunday night, they're going to just release the hounds, especially J.K., because no Justice Hill. So we have to deal with Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake. What are we doing there? Let's just fade it all. And realistically, it's the J.K. Dobbins show here this evening. And we look at Cincinnati, they're 9th overall against defending opposing running back. So JK's not going to be on easy street, not following the Yellow Brick Road to the end zone here, but Dobbins 11.5 on FanDuel, $7,000 on DK, and $16 on Yahoo. When JK Dobbins, 12-13 carries for 60 yards, 3-4 receptions for another 20 to 25 yards. So I don't think Dobbins gets over that 100 total all-purpose yards, but we're close, 80 to 85 yards. And does he find the end zone in the air, on the ground? That's the $22 million question, or however it is. As we go down, Mike Davis, probably not going to be a factor, and because of no Justice Hill. So to me, Kenyon Drake, is he the pivot for Baltimore at running back? And again, if you're going to pick and choose these expensive studs, we need to mix and match, and we have to be careful where we put our players and their price tags. Kenyon Drake, $7,000 on FanDuel, only $1,000 on DK, and $10 the minimum on Yahoo. And again, Kenyon Drake was inactive last week, but now with Justice Hill being inactive and out hurt, it's going to be Dobbins, Drake, with a little bit of taste of Davis. I don't even have any projections for Davis. So when you look at Kenyon Drake, 3-4 carries, 15-20 yards, a couple receptions, 1 or 2 for another 10 yards. So for $1,000 on Yahoo, or excuse me, $10 on Yahoo and $1,000 on DK, you're getting like 25 all-purpose yards with a couple receptions. So you're looking at 4.5 to 5 points for $1,000 on DraftKings. The value, it's okay given the magnitude of the slate. Let's talk about wide receivers. That's why you came here. I'll even timestamp this sucker for you so you can skip past the running backs. Jamar Chase, here we go. Let's talk about him. T. Higgins, Boyd. Jamar Chase, 13.5 on FanDuel, $11,000 on DK, and $32 on Yahoo. When you look at Baltimore, this is the way to attack Baltimore. Baltimore's dead last against opposing wide receivers, and what a better time than Sunday Night Football with Burrow and Cincinnati in town than to just hammer home the ball through the air to Jamar Chase. I have Chase 10 targets, 6-7 receptions, 80 to 85 yards, and he will catch a touchdown pass. That might be the easiest call of the year in terms of anytime touchdown bets on any of the sports books that you use. When we look at T. Higgins, $12,000 on FanDuel, 8.2 on DK, $27 on Yahoo, 9 targets, 6 receptions, about 75 yards, and he finds the end zone as well. So as it stands now, we can get a little anytime touchdown parlay action going with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd is often the odd man out, and what stinks about Boyd, and here, I'll work it backwards. I'll give you Boyd's projection and then with the price tag, because I got something here. Tyler Boyd, about 5 targets, 3 receptions, and 40 yards. That's all well and good if he was $7-8 but he's $10,000 on FanDuel. I just can't pull the trigger. It's just too high of a tag, too high of an ask given this game here. And you might go, Chris, well, Burrow, you got him 280 and 25 completions, and Baltimore's 32nd against passing. Well, where are all the balls going? To Chase and T. Higgins, and maybe a little bit to Mixon and Hurst here. So to me, Tyler Boyd is in play on DK at 6.2 and Yahoo, he's $19. As we move on, Mike Thomas's value is attached to T. Higgins. We saw T leave a couple weeks ago, had a concussion, didn't play the rest of the game, and boom, that's when Mike Thomas came back in. He's null and void in this one. So let's talk about the Baltimore running our wide receivers here, and it's an odd case. Rashad Bateman is out, the second year kid looking to break out. He is out this week, so we're left with Devin Duvernay. Demarcus Robinson came over from Kansas City, James Proche the second, and even Tylan Wallace here. So it's like your head is spinning. And Chris, what direction do we go? Cincinnati right now 10th overall against opposing wide receivers, and I will say Cincinnati secondary is no joke. They have a collection of not only a couple cornerbacks, but they have the 1-2 punch of safeties that would make most people kind of shiver in their boots. So to me, these wide receivers for Baltimore, are they in play? Or are they not in play? And I'll start from the bottom up. Tylan Wallace, only $5,000 on FanDuel. James Proche the second, 5.5 on FanDuel. Demarcus Robinson 6.5 on FanDuel, and Duvernay $9,000 on FanDuel. Duvernay 5.6 on DK, Robinson 2.8 on DK, Proche only 200 on DK, and Wallace only 200 on DK. So it's like, well, what are we going to do here, Chris? We have these 4 or 5 guys, and they're all kind of gelled in that same mold here. Well, to me, when we look at Duvernay, probably the most popular choice for Baltimore wide receiver tonight in like a max or 150 max enter, something like that. But in a single entry, I think I would roll James Proche's way. 5.5 on FanDuel, only 2 bills on DK, 2-3 targets, and you're looking at 2-3 receptions for 20 or 30 yards. And what if for some odd reason Proche finds the end zone at such low ownership and his cost is next to nothing? Now we're talking, we can fit in Proche with Mixon, with Lamar Jackson, and the idea of Mark Andrews here. So, when you use Proche or even Demarcus Robinson, let's say, I have him around 4 targets, 3 receptions for 30 or 40 yards. The Robinson-Proche the second combo at wide receiver opens up a little bit, opens up a few doors as we build for tonight's game here. So let's talk about the tight ends, and we'll get you the heck out of here. Hayden Hurst, Mitchell Wilcox. I have Hurst $8,000 on FanDuel, 4.6 on DK. A healthy amount, 5 targets or so, right? 3 receptions, 30 yards, and that's about it. We know where all the passes are going to just be funneled to Chase and T. Higgins here. And then we get to Mark Andrews. On a single game slate, Mark Andrews has been a stone cold stud. We're looking at 9 or 10 targets, 6 receptions, 70 yards, and a touchdown here. In every lineup that I built, for tonight, and I'll share everything on TikTok or wherever you guys want it or girls want it here. But Mark Andrews and Jamar Chase are must-haves tonight, because that combo right there is going to be accountable for so many targets and touches and yardage and touchdowns here. I think that's where we start. We'll throw the quarterbacks right out the window, and we'll start our builds with Jamar Chase and Mark Andrews and see where it takes us. One lineup will have Andrews at MVP captain, the other one will have Jamar Chase, and we'll go from there. And you can mix and match in Burrow, Lamar as you see fit with James Proche the second, as I've said. Isaiah Likely, is he on the radar tonight? Sure. 4 targets, 2-3 receptions maybe, and about 30 yards in this one, and it's all price tag related. 5.5 on FanDuel, $1,400 on DK, and $10. Is this a game where defenses are in play? Probably not, because I have like a 28-24 kind of final here, but I could see the Ravens, a trio of sacks. I could see the Bengals with a pair of sacks and interception for the Bengals defense. Lamar makes mistakes, so heck, so does Burrow here. So each defense will probably intercept the pass. Both defenses will have at minimum 2 sacks here, so there's some moving parts there. When you look at their price tags, it's all DraftKings based, because on FanDuel the Bengals are $9,000, and on DraftKings, they're $3,600, while the Ravens are $9,500. I mean, I'd rather put my resources elsewhere with a spare tight end like Isaiah Likely for $5,500 over a defense. But when we look at kickers, same thing. I'm thinking Evan McPherson, Justin Tucker, both 3 for 3 with extra points. Both hit a field goal as well here. So, Chris, what the heck is the final score? You're talking all these touchdowns and passing yards. Tell us what the final score is. I believe Baltimore will win this one at home. And again, again, the rematch later in the season in Cincinnati. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But Baltimore does win tonight, and they cover the 3 points. Give me Baltimore to win 28-23, and there we go. There we have it. Any questions or comments? Leave one here on the video, or find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. Stop by the website at Team Riser Fall. Use the promo code Beastie. You'll get $10 off. Be good, be safe, and I'll see you the same time again tomorrow for Monday Night Football. See you later. Bye.